Hi, and welcome to the newest edition of the j-karp Show. Sorry for the long hiatus, but now I'm back and better than ever. The first thing I want to talk about is the Pittsburgh Pirates. Yes, the Pittsburgh Pirates, a team that has had losing seasons for 2 decades straight, finally might break that streak this year. But it is still too early to tell. But with the All-Star break looming, right now Pittsburgh has a 51-31 record, which is best in the majors, even ahead of the St. Louis Cardinals, who are now in second place in that division. But it's not because of their bats. I mean, they're ranked 22nd in runs, 25th in batting average, 22nd in on-base percentage, and 18th in slugging percentage. So it's not the bats that have gotten them this far, it's their pitching. The Cardinals, who at one point had the best ERA in the big leagues, now is home to the Pirates, who have the best ERA in the big leagues with a 3.11 ERA. But as for quality starts, they're still in the bottom half of the league at 22nd. But their batting average allowed is only 225, which is first in the majors as well. Jeff Locke is arguably their best starting pitcher. He's 7-1 with a 2.06 ERA. He's been on fire lately, and it doesn't seem like he's going to cool off anytime soon. But like I said, the All-Star break is in a couple weeks, and that means it's only closing of the first half of the season. That doesn't matter. What matters is how Pittsburgh performs in the second half of the season. And if they don't perform well, they could have a 21st straight losing season. They came close last year to breaking that streak of losing seasons, but once again, late season fallout just cost them that, and now their losing streak has reached the 2-decade mark, arguably the longest in the majors. But this could be a different Pirates team, with Pedro Alvarez leading with 20 home runs and RBIs with 53 for Pittsburgh. Is there no question that Pittsburgh does have a good young team in the making? The question is, with the Reds looming and the Cardinals still hot on their trail, could Pittsburgh hold them off? Personally, I don't see that happening. I see Pittsburgh doing what they always do, falling apart at one point in the late season. Now, I'm not counting them out of the playoffs, but the chances of them winning the division are very slim, with the red-hot Cardinals and Reds still looming not too far behind. Cardinals only a game and a half back. And the Cardinals have cooled off lately, and maybe it's because they were doing so hot in the beginning of the year, and they've just gotten a little exhausted. But it's their bats that have been cold, and some of their starting pitching has shown signs of struggle. But not Adam Wainwright. In fact, the only big surprise out of Wainwright was that he walked 2 batters his last start. But other than that, it's going to be a race between the Cardinals and the Pirates to win the NL Central. The Reds are still in there, but honestly, I still see it between the Cardinals and the Pirates. Now for the next topic, and the final one for this edition of the j-karp Show, but boy is it one that's hitting the sports world hard. Aaron Hernandez. I would love to say he's a Patriots tight end, but first off, he's not a tight end for the Patriots anymore. And if he gets out of prison, more or less, will he ever play again? For those of you that don't know, Aaron Hernandez recently has come under a lot of legal issues. But we're not going to start with the big murder first. We're going to start with some legal cases going back earlier this year and last year. First, we're going to talk about the 2012 Boston double homicide. On June 27, 2013, law enforcement sources told the media that Hernandez was being investigated with a connection with a double murder that took place in July 16, 2012 in Boston's South End, when 2 men were killed by gunshots fired straight into their vehicles. That's the first one. The second one was recently from Alexander S. Braley, described as a friend of Hernandez. He filed a lawsuit against Hernandez in a Florida federal court. Bradley claimed that on February 13, 2013, Hernandez had shot him while the two were riding in a car following an altercation at a strip club in Miami. Bradley alleged that he lost his right eye as a result. When police came to assist Bradley, he declined to name his assailant, and no arrest was made at the time. On June 17th of this past month, the lawsuit by Bradley was dismissed as a result of incorrect paperwork, and now was refiled again on June 19th. And now, the one that really put Aaron Hernandez on the spot. The murder of Odin Lloyd. His death made international headlines. Lloyd was a linebacker for a semi-professional football team, the Boston Bandits. It was his 6th year in the league. Now, the issue was Aaron Hernandez had destroyed several hours of home video surveillance, which is a time lapse between before and after the murder. Now, the surveillance footage that was found by the authorities did show Hernandez with a firearm. Now, also, we have, according to the New York Post, on June 16th, the night before Lloyd's death, Hernandez texted 2 out-of-state pals and asked them to come to Massachusetts. The quote he was told to saying was, "You can't trust anyone anymore," unquote, and that Lloyd texted his sister saying, "Did you see who I am with?" And when asked who, he wrote NFL. His last text read, "Just so you know." And all this is big one theory as to did Hernandez do it. And honestly, all signs point to him doing it. He had the firearm. He destroyed several hours of home video surveillance. The car where the murder was nearby was rented by Hernandez. The Patriots released him as soon as he got arrested on the morning of June 26th. And also, another issue was the cell phone. Hernandez turned in the cell phone to his attorneys, and when it was turned into the authorities, the cell phone wasn't ruined. It was destroyed. It was destroyed when Hernandez destroyed it before he gave it to his attorneys. But on June 17, 2013, Lloyd was shot and killed in an industrial park 1 mile, mind you, 1 mile away from Aaron Hernandez's home. Now, the Bandits released the statement, the football team. The Bandits would like to extend our deepest condolences to Odin's family and his loved ones. He will be deeply missed by his football family, but we promise to persevere and play the game that Odin loved in his honor, and that the Boston Bandits are cooperating with local and state police in their efforts to identify the person responsible for Odin Lloyd's death. Now, at the same time, the Patriots are doing the exact same thing. The New England Patriots, like I said, released Aaron Hernandez just a year after signing an unthinkable contract, especially for an NFL tight end, the second largest contract signing by a tight end in history. The only other person who had a bigger signing by a tight end is his teammate, Rob Gronkowski. The charges by Aaron Hernandez were first-degree murder, 1 count of carrying a firearm without a license, 2 counts of possessing a large-capacity firearm, and 2 counts of possessing a firearm without a firearm identification card. And with the big issue in the world, such as gun violence and restrictions on guns, this just makes the situation a lot more intense and heated up. Now, Hernandez was arrested just last Wednesday, and it was 27-year-old Odin Lloyd. Hernandez is only 23, and it shouldn't come as a big shock that the New England Patriots released Aaron Hernandez. In fact, even though before they released him, they actually forbid him to come to practice facilities and such for fear of just making a big media circus during the Patriots practicing, which is very understandable. It gives the team a bad rep, but the Patriots are still doing what they should and cooperating with all authorities on all issues. But the question is, was Hernandez alone? Did he actually do it? And if so, why? And like I said, I mean, this is just a developing story. It may be over a week old, but it's still developing as more details are coming out. And now, even more of his criminal record is being revealed as these proceedings continue. He's being held in jail without bail. He will stand trial. And you have to wonder, I mean, how does this affect gun laws? He had a gun, wasn't licensed, but he was able to get one, and he used it in the murder of a person. I'm assuming he was the killer, but we can't fully assume anything. But he is charged with first-degree murder, and in the state of Massachusetts, if convicted, he will be sentenced to life in prison without parole. That's the bottom line. If he's convicted in the state of Massachusetts of first-degree murder. Now, if he is convicted of second-degree murder, he will have life in prison, but he will also be able to have parole, possibility of parole, after serving at least 15 years. Bottom line, Aaron Hernandez has completely ruined his life. Whether or not he did commit the murder, and all signs point to that he did, his career is pretty much over. His I mean, he was planning on marrying his fiancée, and now those plans have been halted because the jailer will not allow him to marry his fiancée while he is in jail. The quote from the officer was actually, "If you want to marry her, you know what you do? You stay out of jail." Direct quote. Bottom line is, in an ever-growing society where gun violence runs rampant and restrictions on gun laws, it's a heated battle between Congress, the citizens, the NRA, just over the matter of gun rights. But being murdered cold blood with a firearm does not improve the chances of any less restrictions on gun laws, especially when the person responsible did not have the license of doing so. It's a shame because Aaron Hernandez was a very talented tight end. I'm not a Patriots fan, but even I can say he was a very talented tight end who helped Tom Brady and was a balancing effect on their offense. And with all the losses the Patriots had and the surgeries that Gronkowski is currently going through, this is one of the last things, if not the last thing, that they needed. But let's be honest, it's also the last thing Odin Lloyd's family needed. And I, personally, whether they would ever see this episode or not, it's beyond me. But if they do, I do want to express my deepest condolences and sympathies to the Lloyd family. Nobody should have to be murdered cold-blooded like this. And if Hernandez is the one responsible, then I really hope he gets what he deserves. Whether it be life in prison, I don't believe he should get parole. But he will have a probable cause hearing on July 24th at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, according to the ESPN, Lloyd's family members cried and hugged in the courtroom as prosecutor Bill McCauley outlined the killing. Two relatives were so overcome with emotion that they had to leave the courtroom. All this, I mean, listen to this. And this isn't the only NFL athlete, believe it or not, charged with murder in the last couple of weeks. Austin Walcott, who was drafted by the Cleveland Browns, was released on a charge of attempted murder. He wasn't convicted, but it was an attempted murder charge. But listen to some of these athletes, especially from the NFL, in the last 5 years, no, we'll go the last 10 years, that have been accused of some sort of murder or charge. You have Aaron Hernandez, Austin Walcott, now the runner, Oscar Pistorius, defensive tackle, Josh Brent, Dante Stallworth, NHL, Danny Heatley, swimmer, Tammy Crow, NFL, Dwayne Goodrich, Ray Kurth from the NFL, and in 2000, obviously one of the most famous cases, Ray Lewis. And it really puts a damper on the credibility of the NFL as opposed to how athletes' lives are run and what they can do outside of the field. All I know is that at 10:20 a.m. Wednesday, the Patriots announced they released Aaron Hernandez, and they expressed their sympathy to Lloyd's family and friends. It's a big investigation that might not be solved for quite a long time if there's more evidence to be proven. All I know is that all signs are pointed to Aaron Hernandez. But regardless of if he did it, or he had accomplices, or he even didn't do it in the first place, a man is dead because of a cold-blooded murder, and that is a crime that needs to be solved. Thank you for tuning into this edition of the J-Karp Show, and I will catch you later.